Whoa, it is Friday. Bring it in with me, Jarod, live on location at the beach. And I'm here with Coach David Thorpe and Henry Abbott. How are you guys?
Good.
A little mad that you're not in the rocking chair. We learned that Jarod's been spending the week in the rocking chair, and that just makes me happy.
Listen, I'm preparing for my old man phase when I'm going to be just literally on the rocking chair on the porch, yelling at people as they walk by, all sorts. But I'm actually quite polite. I say, good morning, how are you? Have a good day. You know, it's all friendly stuff.
What about pickleball? Is that going to be part of your old man game?
Oh, yeah. Listen, me and Coach Thorpe, we're going to play some pickleball. So, like, when I'm an old man, Coach will be an older man. So we'll have an interesting pickleball team. We might have to get
Let me just say
Coach
this.
out of his walker.
Pickleball is the sport of the future. Okay. It used to be kickboxing in the 80s. Now it's pickleball. But kids are playing spike ball and pickleball all over the place now, which is great. Anything to get them out of video games, I'm happy with.
We are going to do it. And Devin, I am on the lovely island of Martha's Vineyard. That is what beach I'm at, in a lovely town called Oak Bluffs, having a great time. So, speaking of people having a great time, yesterday was Henry's birthday. Happy birthday, Hen.
Thank you. Thank you, Jarod.
So you had quite a day yesterday. And before we get to that, I just want to say something really briefly about TrueHoop and what we do here. So in our title is the word true. And as you know, Henry, Coach Thorpe, and I, and Judy, we are devoted to telling the truths around our favorite league, the NBA, and the sport. And sometimes those truths are ugly. That's just the nature of how it goes. Doesn't mean we like the sport any less. We like the players any less. It's just things are just what they are. And we are not these other shows you see on TV that just say stuff to get reactions out of people and have you go crazy on the internet. That isn't what we do here. Anything we put out is well-sourced and comes from decades of experience, comes from superb knowledge of X's and O's from Coach Thorpe, comes from sourcing. We don't lie on here. That's just not what we do. So I'm going to just say that and now open up the floor to Mr. Abbott.
So I guess that what we're talking about here, and we're going to get to the draft and everything, is I published a story about Damian Lillard and his leverage with the Blazers and the threat to stay home to get either the team improved or himself to another team. I published it and tweeted it, and then he like retweeted it with a facepalm emoji, and then he talked to reporters and said that none of it was true. And then I tweeted it after a day of like epic meltdown of just like, everything in my mentions was a nightmare of people saying I'm a liar and making up stories and bad at my job. And some of that just comes with it. But this was like a lot. I've been doing this for a long time. This was a lot. So then I basically said what you just said, Jarod. I said, like, I don't lie about anything. And then Damian immediately replied to that saying he doesn't lie. And then what you will not know from the public, it's like, then he started direct messaging me, and he's in Tokyo at the Olympics. So we're direct messaging, like hammering away at each other. Trying to straighten it out. Then my phone rings and it's Aaron Goodwin, who is Damian Lillard's agent. I think I've known Aaron Goodwin longer than Damian has. Like, Aaron and I go way back. We've been through a lot of stuff, and I hold him in tremendously high regard in a lot of ways. And so then Aaron's on the phone and he's like, I'm about to talk to Damian. And I'm like, well, why don't you just bring him on the phone? And within a few minutes, we're on the phone. And most of what happened on the phone call, I'm just not going to share. It's private and fine. It was, Dame and I getting to know each other. Actually, at one point, I will tell you this, the always funny part was, I'm like, this thing happened. Twitter's like a war zone for me now, and it's my birthday. And then Aaron starts talking, and then you can just, and everyone's kind of talking, and Dame's like, Henry. I'm like, happy birthday, man. I'm like, thank you, Dame.
That was the best.
So I don't imagine that it went the way any of us dreamed it would, but it also wasn't bad. I think that, like, moving forward, like, we're more on the same page. I'm just gonna, like, there's just one little point that I want to make. So we've all seen Dame in public say that he's not 100% committed to the Blazers for next year. This story began with me calling around all the people, the dream team of who you would call about, like, well, what is his leverage, right? That's the question that's in the story. What or else, right? What's the else? What else can he do? And the answer is there's only one way out, which is to threaten to stay home. Now, Damian is a guy who's very proud that he does not lie. And guess what? I fucking love that about him because I'm the same way. This is why we're fighting, is because we both can't stand to be accused of lying, and neither one of us lied, right? So Damian's point, he said it in public, is like, I didn't say that. I didn't, like, I'm talking to Neil O'Shea all the time, and I did not threaten to stay home. What are you talking about, right? So the way reporting works, I can't go showing you all my notes, everyone I talk to, but trust me, I'm fucking confident on this, right? And there is no, and when Damian says, I'm not 100% in, I'm going to use an analogy, right? Let's say David and I walked into a bar, and David has, it'd be fun. And David, for unexplained reasons, is carrying like a sword, like a big giant sword. And then I go up to the bar and I order a drink, and I'm like, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to pay for that, right? Like, there is a contract here. There's a contract. I'm supposed to pay for that. We all know that. But if I say I might not, is there a threat? I don't know. You tell me. But there, with David there, whoa, feels like a lot more, right? Like, so the way to make it clear that I'm not being threatening would be to get out the money and put it on the table and say, of course I'm honoring my contract, right? Doable. But if I say, I don't know, like, I might not have made a threat. I might not even want to make a threat, right? So I'm going to tell you, I believe Damian when he says that he has not threatened that, right? Like, however, like, I also know how the league works. And this is like a 30, 40-year struggle for players to have more, not money, but control over where they play, right? And it's been changing. It's evolving. We've had this G League Ignite team is a way to get young Black men mostly out of the control of the white men who control the NCAA, right? Like, this is an evolving thing. Right now, we've reached a moment where, according to a bunch of people, if you're an all-star, a superstar, if you're a Dame level player, you can play wherever you want. Doesn't matter what contract you sign, doesn't matter what your obligations are, you can just go. Like, eventually you have the leverage to get wherever you need to go. But there's only one way to execute it, which is very ugly and painful, and not the kind of thing anyone wants to be associated with. James Harden did it, right? He risked his reputation, and he partied on video and skipped training camp, and he used his leverage. Anthony Davis, similar, a little different, but similar. That's the only way to do it. If they know you're going to be in training camp and they know you're going to give 100%, then you don't have superstar leverage. So this is the space that we're in. I think it actually kind of allows for nobody lied about anything. I think is where we are. I respect the hell out of Dame. I love that he took the time to be on this call. I love that he's a person who takes a lot of pride in not lying. And this is kind of big boy stuff here with this leverage game, and it can get ugly. And that's the space we're in, and that's what's happening. And I have no idea how it's going to play out. But I'm thankful for the opportunity to be kind of honest about it. And I'm thankful that he wished me happy birthday.
Go ahead, Coach.
Just to add a little bit, two things. One is we speak to players, coaches, agents all the time. That's my world, right? Not as a journalist, but as a coach. The draft yesterday, I was talking to NBA coaches, NBA players who are what's going to happen with the team, and agents. And we almost never write about, we write less than 0.5% of what we hear, because it's always news. Every single conversation I had yesterday would have been something that had if we were lesser men or lesser humans rather, or lesser journalists, we would write it. But then they would stop talking to me, by the way, right? That's not my job, is to just give you a window into their lives 24/7. On occasion, there is something that's what we would say highly actionable, because it really is incredibly newsworthy in the landscape of the business. And then there's conversations, and you call the people and whatever. We are responsible for that. We've been in this media a long time because of it. Okay, that's why people do talk to us all the time. Quite frankly, it's why Henry was on the phone yesterday with the principals, because he isn't just some dude writing crazy shit. All right, that's one. Two, I deal with this also on a daily basis. players and agents, they work together and they don't. Even when they don't, they're working together. A player has to be protected, right? A player always wants to be seen as the good guy, understandably so. That's the person being judged on a day in, day out basis on the court. They have representation to handle some of the other stuff. It isn't always so pretty and it can be tied up in a bow. There's no box score for it. We know how a player shoots in the game. We can track all that. There's advanced metrics for that. The other part of the business of basketball can't be quantified that way. And that's what they have professional representation for. And it's not always parallel. I live that world all the time. All right. And I get it. And I know how to keep secrets. Agents know how to keep secrets and they know when not to keep secrets. And it's all part of the plan. And you can read into it as much as you want or as little. But what I just said is 100% the gospel truth. So just know that when we report stuff and write stuff, it's all part of our plan, following the fair protocol, but also doing our job as a media company. That's all I have to say.
Amen.
Can I say one last thing? I freaking love Aaron Goodwin, for the record, and I'm gonna tell you a little funny story.
I know you do, by the way. When we've talked about him for a decade.
Aaron's a good guy.
Yeah. So, but like when I was brand new at ESPN, my boss had a really stupid idea, which was to send me to Dallas when Mark Cuban said he would ban bloggers from the locker room. Blogging was a new thing, and the idea was that maybe they'd have to be there, and there was a whole drama about it. So I fly down. I didn't want to do it. It was like a spectacle. It was not exactly the kind of thing I enjoy, but there I was, and in a little corner of the internet, it was like exciting for a night. Is Henry going to get into Mark Cuban's locker room? And the answer was no. And I got a few people saying like, "Oh, that sucks," whatever. But Aaron called. And he's like, "Did you get in that locker room?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "I would have been there with the entire fucking Nation of Islam."
Such a great line.
Everybody told me that story. The last thing I'll say on this is just remember, guys, like when stories come out from us, particularly, again, we talked about how well sourced they are, whom we talk to, etc. Just because the principal players or people involved get mad doesn't mean what we said is not true, right? That's just how it is. There's ugly truths, as I said. Second thing, Devin, you mentioned Giannis, an example of staying with the Bucks. Here's the other reality about sports, as I'm sure most of you all know, listening to this and watching. Not every team's committed to winning. And Henry said it, like, if Dame's coming to training camp, the Blazers don't have to do a damn thing. And the thing is, teams expect you to honor your contract and live up to whatever it is, wherever you are slotted as a player. Max, that means you're all-NBA, all-star, whatever it is. You got to perform up to the level of your contract. Well, the player enters into that agreement expecting, well, you as the team live up to your end of the bargain, which is make this the most competitive team we can be so we have a chance to compete for a championship. And you guys know most teams don't do that. They just don't.
Well, and you might be aware that not all billionaires are fantastic.
Where we've gotten that idea from, Henry.
And, I mean, like, for real, like if you were, we know the Donald Sterling stories, right? Like there were some years in there where like, I think you have to ask, and this is not an insinuation about the Blazers right now. I'm just talking generally, like fans knee-jerk take the position that players should work for them, which means working for the uniform, which means working for the billionaire, right? But what if that billionaire is Donald Sterling, right? Like, I think we need to shift our perception a little bit. Like the people at the top, the GM, the owner, they need to earn it too, right? Like just because Dame's on a team doesn't mean he should be loyal, right? Like he might be in a bad marriage, right? And Giannis, same thing, right? Like on, like, hopefully everyone involved, hopefully every good-hearted GM, every good-hearted billionaire, like they can find each other and make the Wonder Twins or whatever. That's the goal. But if somebody in there is just not up to it, hasn't earned that trust, like it might be good for the league, temporarily bad for the team, but good for the league if you just get the hell out. So then the team can get the market forces working on getting them a better owner, better GM, right? Like you want that as a player. Like if you're going to lose Dame because your front office isn't up to keeping Dame, you're doomed already, right? Like you need to, I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I'm just saying that like in general, as a fan, I think it's a little bit not in your interest to just blindly support the logo.
That's why we want to get rid of the draft. The draft protects people who are incompetent at their job.
Exactly right.
I'm sorry, it doesn't protect them. It rewards them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's fucked up. But speaking of the draft,
speaking of the draft, great segue. So Coach Thorpe wrote a fantastic piece yesterday about the draft, and Coach and I love Evan Mobley. You guys know we love tall dudes. We're really good at basketball because that's the best. Coach, obviously rim running, athletic, can be a super defender, can potentially be a good shooter. What I love about that is in today's NBA, on defense especially, he has the ability to get out and switch in this very heavy pick and roll, and you got to be able to cover guys on the perimeter. That's what I love about Mobley. He's got tremendous upside. What do you see on tape from Mobley that you love so much?
Yeah, so you have to. Switching is one way to guard pick and roll, right? I was talking to my son this morning at 7:00 about the way Florida State's defend their pick and rolls. Typically, they don't do it; they switch. But they teach at least 3 different ways. I'm not going to go into the details what they call it, but I know what they call it because they're preparing for their opponents and how they defend. So you have to practice against it. The NBA does even more than that. Mike Fratello gives an hour. People may not remember Mike Fratello, but I attended a clinic.
We got a police escort to change his clothes into cooler suit. That Mike Fratello?
Yeah. He gave an hour-long lecture called the eight ways to defend a pick and roll. So
I was going to be nice and say the czar of the teleshow for just to be the nice way, but you had to go that way. It's fine.
You're right.
Fine. So anyway, that's 8. So he has 8 ways to defend a pick and roll. And later on, he said actually there's a 9th way. Well, when you've got a player like Evan Mobley, he can handle all 9. So Brook Lopez can't. Right? There's lots of big guys. Rudy Gobert can't, not the same degree that I think Mobley can. Like Giannis. There's a reason why Giannis is the 4th quarter center in many cases for the Bucks. You can really do whatever you want defensively. They can do all of it. There's lots of room to guard. The Steph Curry, Trae Young impact on the league is that the open 28-footer is a good shot, is how we evaluate for some players. But you also have to protect the rim. And so who better to do that than 7-foot guys with 7'4" wingspans that are super fast and agile? Be able to maneuver back and forth, left and right, changing directions, changing speeds because your opponent's changing speed and not falling over, right? It's hard to do that. This guy, I think, can dance that way and can jump to 13 feet, can handle the ball like a guard, which I think actually helps him defend space against guards. And so I liked him number 1 overall. I'm really dumb. He went number 3. I don't feel bad about that. I don't see Cade Cunningham as Kendrick Perkins was saying the best since LeBron. Like, I don't see that. He's not Luka, who is the best since LeBron, probably for the big wing coming out. And I like Jalen Green a lot. I think there's a downside potential to him. The Rockets got him at 2. I know we'll dive into that. But to me, I don't have question marks about Mobley the way I do those other 2 in terms of what their ceiling can be.
Cade Cunningham, 6'8", about 220. So what I like about him is that's the prototypical size, right? You need to put on a little more weight, but that's that wing size that you want. Yeah. Do you see concerns from him defensively? Do you think Detroit's just a bad fit for him? What are your concerns about Cade?
My only concern is twofold. He's a good athlete. He's not an elite athlete. Okay. And I don't think his scoring instincts are great. Some guys, like, we talk about instinct. You want to reach into the fire when you're 2, but not when you're 3, whatever. You can learn instinct. So these are teachable things for him, but it's not natural for him, which means it's a little more challenging. And the lack of athleticism isn't going to really change. So Luka Doncic at the same age, as we talked about, I think on Monday's show, had the greatest 19-year-old year of all time, or 18-19. Europe anyway, because he won everything. MVP of everything, champion of everything. This guy couldn't even win the Big 12. Okay, the EuroLeague would beat the Big 12 by 1,000 points. He was good. He's good. He's a can't miss prospect. He's going to be a top 3 guy on your team, and that's great. But the draft number 1, like Mobley's got a chance, I think, to be. Well, the 2 guys that he reminds me of most are guys named Chris Bosh and Anthony Davis. So I would not take him number 1 over LeBron James in this draft. Okay. But LeBron James isn't in this draft. So That's why I gave him a little bit higher. I like Anthony Davis a lot and Chris Bosh before that a lot. That's why I think Mobley is.
Love it. Love it.
That's a quick Mobley question. So, it's occurring to me that every year we talk about a big who's super mobile. But then they get to 25 or 30 and like they calcify, right? My point is, like, if you're drafting for the 7-foot guy, you use the word dance, like it literally is like ballet to move like that,
Yeah.
right? Like, how long do we expect that to last?
Well, what we've learned is, it's a great question. We've learned is the more athletic guy as a younger player and tends to be able to keep enough athleticism to survive longer than the Shane Battier, who didn't make it because of a lack of athleticism. He had a lack of athleticism. He made it because of other things. But when you really can't move at all, it's much, much harder. Not to say it's impossible. Jared Dudley still collects a paycheck. Okay. Plumlee just got traded to, I can't keep track of who. One of the Plumlees just got traded to Charlotte. He can still move. Like, he's still agile. I think that yoga and all the advanced training that these guys are doing now, I think that's one reason why Chris Paul at 36 and what they hope Kyle Lowry will be at 36, I guess, for wherever he goes next, is they're going to stay more fluid longer than ever before. And the other thing, Henry, is who's drafting for a player? Like, if you're drafting for a player because of what he looked like in year 11, you're making a mistake at this point, right? You're hoping to hold on for one more contract. That's about all you can do. For sure. But I guess if you're drafting a 3-point shooter or someone for their height, then like those things will definitely be there for the long haul. But like it just occurs to me that like the 9 different ways that a big can defend the pick and roll, like, can Anthony Davis still do all of those? He can, yeah. It's really a fantastic question. Yeah. There'll be a day when he can't, and now he can't play in the fourth quarter. Potentially. Depends on who the other team's playing, right? The other team wants to stay big, you can stay big, but they end up feeling our big isn't as good as your big, so we're going to sit our big because now you have to sit your big, right? That's just some little guy around, yeah. Right, that's what they're playing. Got 9 different ways to give you a headache. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, he's just, these guys move like guards. That's how I look at it all the time. They move like guards. He plays like a guard that just doesn't shoot great. There's question marks about his motor, to which I responded by saying he's just bored. Like he's, if you have pride, you have a motor, because in the NBA without pride, you're going to get crushed. And so I think that he'll come around with that. I do think Cunningham's worthwhile to take for Detroit, knowing that he can't miss. Mm-hmm. He fits in fine with who they have. He's a dribbling Jason Tatum. That's a nice thing to have. Jason Tatum's a very, very good player. He's probably the best player on the team that made 2 different Eastern Conference Finals, right? So that part's good. I think you're right, Jarod. You said about pairing him with Jared Allen. I think you're right.
I like that.
My issue is with the franchise. Well, I don't trust the Cavaliers to figure this out. But if they do, then good for them, because they've got. So we're going to talk about this later with the Raptors and the Kings. So this is a Cavaliers team that's thinking, you want to go small? We're going to go tall and kill you. If you think that. If you play both those guys together, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that was in my mind. I see Jared Allen and Evan as twin towers, but not in that old slow plotting twin towers way, as in like, good luck, because we're grabbing all the boards, we're protecting the rim, we're covering you guys like mad up there. We're gonna get to the Lakers and their exciting day a little bit later, but I do want to talk about, I know one of your favorite picks, Coach, Scottie Barnes going to the Raptors at 4, a little higher than I think, not that much higher, but a little higher than maybe people thought. Defensively, you love him. He comes out of Florida State. We know Coach Hamilton teaches those guys how to play basketball. They're not dumb. They just know where they're supposed to be at all times. Really, really bright for where they are. And we know Toronto's a great developmental team. Masai's great, and Nick Nurse. Could there have been a better landing spot for Scottie Barnes?
Yeah, I think it'd be really good in Detroit at number 1 or number 2. But yeah, you're right, of course. I was very happy. Florida State, I told you this, Jarod, before we started. They've had 3 straight ACC 6 Men of the Year winners. All 3 ended up going first round. 2 were number 4 pick last year and this year. That's culture. that's recognizing. In fact, I'm going to tell you another story. Henry's going to love this so much. I won't go into names, but that's players recognizing, oh, I can still get drafted wherever I want to get drafted, even if I don't start. It's so very, very hard to get these guys to accept that. But yesterday, I spoke to the father, a long 54-year friend of mine. So anyone who knows me knows what I'm talking about. His son is a high-level player, like getting ACC offers now as a junior. And Florida State was not a school that was high on his list, although I'm not sure he's high on their list because they recruit a little level higher than some of these other ACC schools right now. But he just went through 2 straight big-time AAU showcase weekends. And he came in after the second one and said to his dad, you know what? Florida State's on my list. This is hard. Playing all but 5 minutes every single game, night in, it's brutal on my body. I couldn't play the way I wanted to play. Now I get what Florida State's doing. I want more teams to start doing this, right? But I think the Raptors, I think Masai is doing what we just talked about with Cleveland, Jarod. They're trying to get a bunch of 6'9" dudes, and then maybe Freddie VanVleet, who by the way is pretty sure he's 6'9". If you ever watch Fred VanVleet play, I promise you he sees 6'9" in the mirror. That's a rough and tumble motherfucker right there. He can really play, right? I think that Masai is thinking, I got OG Anunoby, I've got Pascal Siakam. These are primary ball handling, especially Siakam, 6'8" plus guys who are super long. OG is really powerful. Scottie's going to be, I think, very powerful. He's very long, 7'4" wingspan, whatever. He's going to just go big everywhere. And I think Toronto did really well. He's also, as I was talking to my son today about it, he's just the most charismatic, energy-bringing player probably in the draft. Although I would tell you, I thought Cade Cunningham killed it last night in his interviews. Very impressive young man, I thought. Not to say that means anything on the basketball court, but if you're also good at basketball, which Cade definitely is, that's nice. To be that, he's very charming and charismatic his own way. But if you saw Scottie, like Scottie was doing pumpers, like Scottie was reacting. So that's how he is. He brings joy. I think the word's ebullient, right? He's just got that fire and that love that I love. And I'll just be honest, I texted Henry last night. I always thank Henry. I never take for granted his trust in me. But when I was preaching Scottie Barnes, he was late lottery. Now, he was a top 5 pick coming out of, he's a top 5 prospect coming out of high school. But for the draft, the ESPN had him like between 9 and 13. And I was heaping praise upon him to my partner. And Henry knows if I'm excited about a guy, it doesn't mean I'm always right, but I'm always right what I see. It doesn't mean my projection's always right because variables happen. I did some pumpers. I don't normally root. I don't know Scottie. I never met him. Because of COVID, I didn't go to a single practice all year. But I jumped out of my seat when he was drafted. I thought they were going to take Suggs. And I spoke to Masai. I still thought they were taking Suggs. And I get it. Like Suggs replaces Lowry. He's a very much Lowry-like player. But I was very happy for Scottie because Toronto really, Masai cut his teeth in America in my gym, doing player development with guys like Haslam and Kevin Martin. So I was really happy for both franchise, my friend Masai, also first my son's friend. I think he's going to be a tremendous player there, guys.
Happy Thorpe everywhere. I think ideally, Coach, 1 through 4, I'd like players that are between 6'7" and 6'9", super athletic, and my 5 would be a rangy rim running 7-footer who can cover 1 through 5. What do you think?
Not bad. Okay. All right, cool. Milwaukee
cool.
beat up.
I'm gonna work on that.
Milwaukee beat up Phoenix, right? With size. They killed them on the glass and got so many more possessions, and they forced more turnovers in part because they were so long. And then Team USA just got beat up by Team France. Just beat up physically, right, in the first game. So it's unfair as someone who has fathered someone who is only going to be 6'3", and much of the world looks like him. Tall, long guys have a big advantage in this game. They really do. And it's only getting more so, not less so.
Yeah.
So if you aren't tall, like Jalen Suggs deserves credit for being incredible and not being tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Book Knight, all these guys.
Yep.
But the league is not getting shorter, guys.
You mentioned Suggs. I love this kid. 6'4", played at Gonzaga. excellent. I don't love that he went to Orlando though, coach, because I don't really know what's going on down there. Though I wish the Orlando head coach much luck to be very good.
Are you saying that as a Suggs fan or as a Magic fan?
Oh, as a Suggs fan, I don't trust the Magic franchise. That's what makes me nervous.
Yeah. I mean, I know those guys well. They're up against it right now. I know I can say this now. There's no way Scottie Barnes is going past 5 unless they're lying to me. Scottie Barnes is from that area, right? He played at Montverde as a senior, but he's from this couple hours southeast of there. Magic was taking him at 5, I think, but I think they're thrilled to get a guy that can help them win more year 1, which Suggs may be able to do. I like Cole Anthony, actually. So he'll be a nice guy off the bench. I think Suggs can play with Markelle Fultz well.
Okay.
If Jonathan Isaac's injury is tragic as injuries go, he's not dead or dying, but 2 years in a row with torn ACL is not good because if he was healthy, he's a defensive player of the year candidate. This guy can really guard Suggs. Fultz is actually getting better on defense, and he's got 6'7" size, whatever, for a guard. They could be a defense first team. But now I don't know. Like I think Suggs is going to be good. I think he's another guy like Kate Cunningham. Run your team, beat Kyle Lowry. That's great. He'll last a long time. Like he'll be playing this game. I'll be retired. He'll still be playing the game, maybe. You know.
So speaking of dumpster fire franchises,
are we talking Kings?
What's going on in Sacramento?
It's a really weird situation. I don't know that Henry's ever seen Mitchell play, Devian Mitchell from Baylor, but he'd be your favorite player. Judy, he's the closest thing to Pat Bev in the draft, Pat Beverly. Maybe more charming, which I like that about Pat Bev, that he's not so charming, right? I think Mitchell already is more charming. I love him. I love that he was drafted. I just don't know what the Kings are doing. They have Fox, and they've got Halliburton. That's 2 of their last 3 players, the top picks in the same position.
And they traded for DeLon Wright and Terrence Davis.
I don't know what's happening over there.
Yeah, it's so right.
Unless they're moving Buddy Hield, right? They probably got to be thinking about moving Buddy.
Well, so now, Jarod, now we get into my conspiracy, which is this is what they had to do to trade Fox and Buddy Hield, who's got 3 years left on his deal, to the Philadelphia 76ers for Ben Simmons and George Hill. Probably have to give Philadelphia a pick.
Can you say it really slowly for me? Like, I want to really picture this. Like, let's.
All right, so the Sixers get Fox, who's 23, 2 years younger than Simmons, a terrific offensive player, not very good defensively, but with Joel Embiid and Tabule, they feel pretty good about protecting anyone. Fox should be a good defender. He's very athletic. So you get Fox and Buddy Hield, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, who is a gunslinger. Because we all know with Daryl Morey, it's win now. And so Buddy Hield's a good player, and he's a great shooter, and he's not afraid to take anything. He thinks he's always open. So you give up Ben Simmons to Sacramento. He's only 25. So he's 2 years older than Fox, but Mitchell's almost 23. How old is Tyree? How old is Halliburton?
22.
21, 22 is what I thought. So he's not that much older. They're the worst defensive team in the league. They get off of Hield's money because they're not competing for a championship. That to me, I thought I was pretty smart putting that together. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I actually thought it makes some sense for both teams, right?
I like it.
So that's just an idea that came to you.
I've not read that anywhere. No.
Yeah.
I didn't know why else they drafted Mitchell, because by drafting Mitchell, you play him and Halliburton together. It's not a great backcourt defensively. Mitchell is, but he's just little. He's not going to be so easily switchable early in his career. Later in his career, he'll be much better, for sure. But with Ben Simmons, any defensive team ranked 3rd in the league goes to 20 with Ben Simmons. That one guy. And if they re-sign Holmes, who's a good big man, defensively athletic, they can – with Mitchell, too, in place of Fox, they may be offensively challenged a little bit, but I think they'll be much better defensively. And Fox – I mean, I don't think they want to get off Fox. I'm not suggesting that. But why else would you draft Mitchell? Why would you take a 3rd guard when you have so many holes everywhere and there's equal talent in other spots? If there wasn't, that'd be different.
to make sure.
To make Judy watch.
Yeah.
They
Hell,
do-
they
they-
could have acquired
They,
Pat
they
Beverly
do have a
for that.
surplus of small guards. They got to figure out what they're doing there. So someone, it may not be Fox, but I think the idea is right that they got to be trading someone, or at least hopefully planning to figure out what's next. Oh, Sacramento. Let's stay in the Bay. Jonathan Kuminga, forward, going to the Golden State Warriors at 7, 8.
Yeah, maybe they take Moses Moody at 14.
Yeah. Are we packaging here to get somebody where? What's are we pairing him with Wiseman? What do you think the Warriors are doing here?
My only guess, because I have no knowledge of what you're saying, is what I told Chad Ford on his podcast the other day is if I'm the Warriors and I'm not trading, I'm thinking about now and later. And later has nothing to do with now. So Wiseman, yes, he has to play some now. But if you want to win a championship now, which they do with Clay and Curry and Draymond, Wiseman can't be counted on that much. Again, he's coming off an injury after barely playing last year, whatever. But if I'm drafting for the future, and in my mock draft with Chad, I picked Kuminga at 7 because I thought super talented upside, has years to go for sure. Wiseman years to go, super talented. And then I had him drafting Josh Giddey at 14. Turns out the Thunder took him at 6. So I wasn't wrong to say they should get him at 14. I was just wrong that other people wouldn't draft him. And I think OKC made a mistake. But 6'8" point guard who can't shoot yet at 14, plus Kuminga and Wiseman, there's the Warriors of 2026 playing the G League all this year, including Wiseman some. Let him just play and kill it in the G League. And then maybe sprinkling some opportunities with the varsity team. But you're trying to build a 9-man rotation, not including these guys, if you want to win a championship. And maybe by year's end, 1 or 2 of those 3, Wiseman included, can help the varsity. You don't know. Maybe they do package. Sounds like the Wizards don't want him for Beal. Sounds like they want to keep Beal.
Every year, I feel like every day the story changes on Beal. It's nope, he's not going anywhere. Then it's rumors. Maybe they're moving him. Well, Westbrook gone now. Is that something that could happen now? Is Washington going to look at, because Beal really isn't on the timeline as Thomas Bryant and Denny and their young guys, right? He's a bit older, so maybe this is the time to trade Bradley Beal. But what am I getting back in return?
Let's do a little review of the current state of the Wizards. Can I? What do you think?
Henry's wrap up.
I think the Wizards. I told this to Henry today, Jarod. I think the Wizards are building a team where everyone that gets on the court can play, which is not the way it is with many teams in the league. So you've got one legit all-star. Didn't he lead the league in scoring last year?
Second, but yeah.
Number 2? Was he number 2?
Yeah, behind Curry by like a 10th of a 100th of a point.
Right. So yeah. So elite scorer, one of the most elite scorers in the world. Really a great all-around player that hasn't played defense in years because there's been no reason to. So you've got Beal and surrounding him with potentially 9 guys that can play. Like Denny Avdia, I believe, was a positive for them this year. You can look it up. I could be wrong in plus minus. He was one of the only rookies that actually did make his team worse. He may not have the upside other guys do. You could argue that, but he knows how to play. He's been playing professionally for years from Maccabi Tel Aviv. Hachimura is getting better. Like, guys are getting better that are young. And so now with the new guys they got from the Lakers, the cavalry that comes from LA, Kuzma can play. He's good now. He just didn't have any role in LA. KCP is good. He's been in the league a long time now, right? Close to maybe 10 years now. So I think they're building, in a sense, kind of like the Jazz last year, without quite the top end talent. But at least they've got, what they're working with is good depth. Everyone can play. No one's making us terrible, and that's going to make the playoffs in the East.
Because they were an 8 seed this year, right? And they were, obviously they didn't beat Philly, but I think that squad, to your point, Coach, could give a top seed a lot more trouble, right? Particularly if they're a defensive-minded team and guys who know how to play. I like it.
I would add one more thing, though, which is if indeed they make the playoffs, and with these young guys who all know how to play, in the off chance that 1 or 2 of them shows a little more upside, when now our friend Tommy Shepard can think that person who's 22, 23, 24 isn't age right with Beal for the window of our franchise to win. So now's the time to make a deal for them to go somewhere else to bring in someone to play with Beal that's ready right now. So it's easier to trade guys that are good. Look at Kuzma, right? Look at KCP, a year off of winning a championship, right? So if the Wizards can at least get in the playoffs and these young guys look like they've got some progress, you can trade Beal if you want to then and get more of those guys, or flip it and move these young guys to the team that they can't win with their star they have. And now you're bringing a star with Beal if you try to win right now. It's a win-win if you develop these players.
Here's this other thing that and the top end NBA salaries are going up while the salary cap is staying flat.
Yep.
Right.
Which means like the Beals of the world are eating like almost half of the salary cap, which is a new thing in NBA history, which makes an interesting dynamic. It has been argued to me that if you were to trade a player with a Beal-like salary, then you're going to strip the destination team so bare that it won't be that good anymore. Look at Russell Westbrook rallying on the Lakers. We will see, but like that is a bare cupboard, right? Like so now that the Wizards are this good, they're like, wherever you rate them, they're
a playoff contender.
So at the day that Beal might be compelled to demand a trade in the future, he has to think very hard about if he's going to land at a better team, because the team that he's going to with this salary will be like throwing every asset at the Wizards.
Right. No, that makes total sense, Henry. We talked about the Lakers. Let's go there in their monumental trade. So they now have a lineup featuring Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. So from a star wattage standpoint,
hold on, say it again. LeBron, Davis, Westbrook.
Yes. Well, I'm just saying those are the three main guys in their lineup. That's what I'm saying. The wattage there is outstanding, right? From a star standpoint, names, lights, all that. Of course, Coach, I'm sure my concerns are the same as yours. Just with those three alone, I hate their spacing. Number one, I'm like, who's shooting on that team? And I know that they have Taylor Horton-Tucker, who they did extend. They got to figure out what they're doing with Alex Caruso. But maybe the Lakers say we're playing straight bully ball because we're going to grab every available rebound that exists and just pound you that way. Because shooting, I don't see it.
LeBron's going to have to shoot as he's aging, right? That's going to be, I don't know what he shot last year, but that's going to have to be a thing.
He shot very well last year. We can look it up, but
yeah. No,
Devin, what did he shoot from three last year? Devin, check it out.
Thank you, Devin.
Thanks, Devin.
Yeah, it might have been like 37, 38. He's going to be a shooter. Caruso is a shooter now.
Devin. We want LeBron's 3-point percentage.
They're not gonna have enough guys. I'm worried about that.
Yeah,
I'm worried about that. I like Russell Westbrook is better playing next to someone that dominates the ball a lot because it means he doesn't.
It's true,
right? I would make sure Russell gets a good amount of minutes with his second unit. I would have him first guy off in the first unit and bring him back with the second unit and play fast with him and make sure he gets some shooters there. They just have very little money to work with,
I mean, because they're already deep in the luxury tax, 36%. Thank you, Devin.
37.
They're deep in the tax, right, Henry? They got to be with those three.
Well, they're over the salary cap just with those three players.
Yeah.
Do we know what the tax level is going to be yet for next year?
I don't think they've even made that clear yet.
I think I saw it estimate. I think they cut a deal where it's going to go up 3%, which is not normally it's a percentage of BRI. I think they're taking last year's and it just goes up 3%. But then it hasn't been announced as like the official thing. So I don't know. I think that means the salary cap is around 116. Those guys are making over 120. I think that there's three of them.
Three of them is already 120.
Tax level is going to be 130-ish. I don't know. I think I said 134, something like that. Don't quote me. But I don't know. These are all minimum play. Like mostly it's going to be the taxpayer mid-level minimum players, and maybe there's some other hijinks they can pull that I'm not aware. I think they could sign and trade Dennis Schroeder and add players that way.
Right? Yes, that's true. They can't do that, which I think that might be it.
Yeah, they're not guys. They're not going to be terrible.
Oh, I mean, with the you're not
minus injuries, which I know Henry is.
That's
you can't ignore that.
40 years old, or Anthony Davis, like
you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that for sure. The West, it's really interesting because what made the Jazz so amazing, Derek Favors is now gone, right? Derek Favors was able to play with the first group and do well enough to allow Rudy to play with the second group, which was a devastating second group, the best in the league. The best bench in the league was Gobert and Conley with 3 subs. Okay. We're reading about Ingles being on the trade market, Bogdanovich maybe being on the trade market. There's a starter and a 7th man. Their 9th man, George Niang, unlikely to go back there next year because they don't have enough money for him. My point is, the Jazz, I think, come down a little bit now. Okay, here's the Lakers adding Westbrook with the injuries. Maybe they come down a little bit.
The Nuggets.
Kawhi Leonard, don't know when he's coming back. Maybe they come down a little bit, right? Phoenix, if they keep Chris Paul, okay. If they don't, they come down. Like, hello, Denver.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray's okay. Hello, Denver, right?
Nikola Jokic had the whole summer off because he's not playing in the Olympics. So he gets to rest a bit.
Right.
Luke is watching this, right? Luke is watching what you're saying, David.
And I was just going to say, Dallas, I still think they need help, but they're going to be active in free agency for sure. With stuff I'm hearing from agents and players. And Luka is a guy. He's that guy, right?
Yeah.
So the Clippers with Kawhi, I feel like I think they found their coach in Ty Lue.
Yeah.
And but they lose Reggie Jackson probably, right?
Oh, he's getting paid somewhere.
Somewhere, maybe there. I don't know. So yeah, it's interesting.
I also would say, like, Clutch is a very powerful agency. And they don't start thinking about this now. Right. So they've got to fill the Lakers roster with minimum guys, and players talk to players every day of the year. And
they already got the guys. Yeah.
I mean, or they have a sense, right? Like, who's ready to take a pay cut to chase a ring, etc. Yep. It's a very different situation than like the Portland Trailblazers having 7 empty roster spots. Like, well, shit, that's a problem. It's a little different for the Los Angeles Lakers, the Tinseltown team with LeBron's agency, having been developing relationships with these players since they were 15. They'll do better than most teams would with all these empty spots.
For sure.
I was just looking up, an agent sent me a list of every team in the NBA and their interest level in a particular free agent. And I wanted to see what the Lakers wrote because I'd forgotten. I knew it was something kind of ambiguous, and I was right. It's next to the Lakers, it's maybe. So what that means is they're keeping every option open right now. I'm sure they want to load up, but there's not always a chance to do that. You have to use the vagaries of the salary cap, right, to make some things happen. I don't think Pelinka's great at that. And just because you can do it doesn't mean you can actually do it, right? You get the player you want. The West is just very interesting right now with what might happen.
Henry, you brought up an interesting point I kind of want to touch on, the flattening cap, right? And max players taking up now almost half of it. That leads me to think about a team in the Eastern Conference who has some decisions to make. And we talked about them after they got knocked out in the conference finals, but the Hawks. There was some rumors about, will they move Reddish? Like, they got a lot of guys, coach, that they have to figure out, are they going to extend, who they're going to keep, who they're going to move? I feel like you probably can't keep both Reddish and Herter. So who would you move and for what? And because they're young, I think you can get some good stuff back in return for either.
I mean, I love Herter. I have nothing against Reddish's upside. They're just not the same player right now. Herter's a starter. I like him. I think he's Ray Allen. He's a pale Ray Allen. He really is. He is. I mean, when I watch Ray, I'm not talking about form or whatever, though his form is similar. He's a gunslinger. I saw Ray Allen when he, starting when he was 19 years old, like in person.
Don't worry, I'm still here.
Okay. I think that
Martha's Vineyard got him. That's gone.
I think that Reddish, you could probably get some value for him too on a trade, because he had a couple nice postseason games, and maybe he's gonna be the better player long term.
He's unbelievably fast. Like when he just showed up in the playoffs, it was like woo.
Yeah,
Reddish was like,
but he shot well.
Yes,
he shot well. He was always considered like a top 5 prospect.
Remember in high school, coach, when he went to Duke, he was an elite shooter. That was his thing.
Why do you think they have to move him, Jarod?
Because I don't think they can pay everybody, because they got Collins they got to worry about. Trade.
So they have to
get his extension already?
Yet. Right.
Yeah.
They have to move him eventually, you're saying.
Yes.
So play him this year, build up his value more, and then make a move.
Yeah, right. I'm with you there. I agree.
Yeah, that's probably what they have to do. All right, any other draft thoughts, guys?
The Knicks, because Randy's here. We got to talk about the Knicks.
Randy's worried. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what they did. They're none of these guys can help them win next year, and they want to win, and they don't want to eat up any cap space at all. So they traded out because they want to sign guys up and win right now. I'm that's what I'm hearing on the street, is that they're trying to find players to win right now.
David, in a pandemic, when you say on the street, we know you're lying because everybody's just staying home. Like,
dude, clearly you've not visited Florida.
Fake news.
Clearly, you have not visited Florida. I've got 2 Israelis here, and they said to me day one, like, "What is going on here?" I'm like, "Yeah, Florida."
Open. Yeah.
Greg just asked in the chat, am I in Martha's Vineyard with the new NBA Africa strategic investor Barack Obama? Yes, I am. In fact, it is President Obama's 60th birthday party this weekend, or 50th, whatever. No, I don't have an invite, but look, if I see him in Edgartown, I'm like, Barry, come on, bud.
No, you stay put. Let him come to you. You stay in your rocking chair.
If he sees me in the rocking chair, he'll definitely invite. I'm like, oh no, that guy's gotta be at my birthday party.
That's a cool way to have him meet you. Or you're all set. You're not like thirsty.
We should, before we get into Team USA, I know we'll talk a little bit. Can we just talk honestly about Simone Biles? Is it?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
I really don't pay attention to anything about basketball, but I know she is.
For sure.
The language, how people are treating her. We know who you voted for in 2020. Let's put it that way. If you say something bad about this young woman. I think I don't root for anything bad for her. I wish she could have performed, because that means she was healthy. But unlike basketball and soccer, you're not putting your life at risk in those sports,
right? If
you're not totally focused, the way a gymnast is,
right?
Or livelihood, like broken necks equal paralyzed legs and all of that. I give her so much respect for being, the strength it takes to do what she did is awe-inspiring. Yeah, I'm rooting for her.
Yeah, for me, look, Simone, regardless of whatever happened at this Olympics, just if you look at, again, metrics and medal count in Worlds and Olympics, she was already the greatest gymnast of all time, right? So nothing she did here was going to change that fact. It was just going to add more trophies to the case, right? So the thing about her, to your point, Coach, and I think was brilliant, she has in that sport, if you are not fully committed and locked in when you are twisting, especially the way she does it, because what she attempts,
she's 25 feet in the air
than everybody else. If she just has a brain fart for half a second, you're landing on your neck, and that's game over, right? So why risk that and say, you know what, I'm good. Like I'm going to step back from this. And she said that she didn't realize that she could actually look at her life outside of being a gymnast. And we always say this about these athletes. Guys, they're human beings. Yes, they're amazing at basketball or whatever, but they are people first. And we have to allow them the humanity we afford everyone else.
And remember, Christy Oshman on this show taught us that stress is stress, right? So it doesn't matter if you're feeling a flood of hormones from being late, or you're worried about heart disease, or you have had a big fight with your spouse, or whatever it is. Like, all of these stresses are equivalent in their effect on your athletic performance and your likelihood to get sick or injured, all these things, right? So these management books that I have here on the shelf are all about basically make people feel safe, and then they can give you their best, right? Like, you cannot possibly argue that USA Gymnastics with Larry Nassar
exactly
makes people feel safe, right? Like, and the pandemic, and to me, I'm like, I think sports fans generally fall down on, I want you to be superhuman. I don't want to hear about your weaknesses, right? Like, that's basically how sports fans behave. But I'm going to say, okay, if you want people to act superhuman, what can change? I think we've loaded as much onto the shoulders of Simone Biles and Damian Lillard and everybody else that we love watching perform. Like, I think that's this is about as much as humans can carry without needing the occasional week off, right? So what can get better? It's like, I think we can do way better with the organization, making people feel safe, making them feel like, if you come into work today, we'll make sure that you make it through okay, right? Because we got your back and you're going to trust us, right? I think that's where we can improve. And so that's what the future, I think, of like fewer Simone Biles dropping out in the middle of the Olympics. Like, I think this is how we get there, is with USA Gymnastics becoming a totally better and different and stronger and more loving organization.
Well said, Henry.
I would also like to add one other thing. I'm not expert at this, but I think their names are Jackie Chan and Jet Li, that two of the most incredible athletic martial arts people, and their movies are fun to watch because of their talent. This young lady has a future in action movies because you don't need a stunt double. You couldn't find a stunt double.
I can do my own stunts.
Unbelievable personality, incredible charisma, and who would want to watch her do all that kind of stuff with a sword in her hand or a gun or something? You know what I mean? Like, athletes use their fame to do cereal boxes and other things. This girl should be like an Oscar award winner. She's incredible if she wants to be, and she can't do that with a broken leg.
Did not think we were going to talk about action movie star
Jackie Chan and Jet Li.
I mean,
that was.
Listen, they did it. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm aging myself. There's a movie called Gymkata with some dude, some white dude from my childhood, who was a great, bars or rings, whatever they're called for men's gymnastics. This girl, like, who wouldn't want to go watch her perform? Incredible.
Oh, she's incredible. And Henry, I love the fact that you brought up Simone, and then Greg put this in the chat. She wanted, part of the reason we're going to Tokyo was to make sure that no one forgot about Larry Nassar and her being the face of this, right? Like, they did. There it is. Judy's quick on it.
Yeah. It's funny.
and she did not want anyone to forget the role that USA Gymnastics, the organization, played in her and her fellow teammates and Olympians lives over the past several years, right? This man was a serial abuser for decades, and that's a problem.
I'll tell you, I haven't watched a ton of Olympics, but Sunisa Lee, right? I think that's her name. A lot of what happens in sports is impressive because like they ran so fast, but you kind of like, but what she did on the uneven bars is impressive, like a magic, like a magic trick, like flying, like it's just it's unbelievable. Moment after moment, I'm like, hallelujah! Like, look what she's doing. Like she happened to be the first thing I saw. Her preliminary uneven bars, first day of the Olympics, was the first thing I saw. I'm just like, wow! Like, Olympics are at a different level this year. And turns out she's the best in the world at that and won the all around gold. But yeah, that's, I mean, one little thing that happened out of this is, other people got some spotlight, and well deserved.
And apparently, I think someone put in our chat, Simone was the best cheerleader in the arena.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Coach, and this is the part I know you love. Yeah. She was phenomenal, cheering on her teammates, and just being supportive and saying, "Girls, I don't got it today, but I know you got it. Go ahead and kick butt, whatever you need. I got you."
She's the OG of gymnastics in the world, right?
She's the greatest ever.
She's raised the level.
Greatest ever.
Can I make one little draft point?
Yeah.
Just pay attention to this one little fact, which is back when I was an editor, Kevin Pelton uses algorithms no one understands to project players in the NBA, and he sends in the thing. Kevin Arnavitz and I were editors together for that little period, and Kevin's like, "Well, we can't just slip in there that he thinks this guy no one's heard of, Nikola Jokic, is the best player in this draft." And actually, he had Nurkic and Jokic both like mega high, and they're both projected to be like second rounders. He's like, if we're like, he calls back Kevin Pelton. It's like, either we're going to write a whole story about this and make it the headline, or we're not going to say it, right? Well, it turned out to be a fucking baller call, right? He's back. Same system, projecting the same way as Alperen Sengun is like the same exact kind of thing. Like, I've never seen him play. I don't know.
Where did he get picked?
Oh, he's really, really talented offensive player.
Yeah.
He's very, very slow and not as tall as Jokic. He's a good 2 inches shorter.
Yeah, he's with the Thunder. Oh, reportedly traded to the Rockets. That's right. The Thunder picked him.
Coach, let's really quickly on Team USA. I don't like it. What do you say?
What don't you like? You don't think they're going to beat Czech Republic?
Look, I don't think they could not win a medal round. They can get knocked out in the knockout phase. I talked about the roster construction. I don't love it. It's just, What are the roles? Who wants to just guard? I don't love Draymond and Bam at the same time. That's two non-shooting people.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't like it.
I agree with that, but I still favor them. I hear you're saying they're not going to smoke everyone. They're going to have a tough time just winning. They got to beat the Czech Republic. Team USA soccer team won today, by the way, in girls.
Woo! And Caleb is right. We do have KD, which is good. Yes, that is always a good fail-safe. Correct.
Yeah, right. As long as he makes shots, he didn't make them against France, but
he did not.
He ain't going to miss a lot. Yeah. And Harden. Do we have Kyrie on that team?
No. Devin's talking about the Nets.
Yeah, I mean, Harden's not on the. Oh, okay. No. Not on Harden either. Yeah. All right. We'll be watching. I'll be writing about him next week.
Oh, okay. Team USA next week. We will be back on Monday. Everyone have a good weekend. Henry, enjoy your birthday weekend and all your fun festivities. Coach, keep it fresh down there in Florida. We'll see you guys next week.
Back to the rocking chair.